Hi, yeah, my name's Freya Ballard. I work in the policy team looking at single-use vapes. This is just a quick update on where we are with the regulations. If we're okay to go to the next slide. Oh, that's great. So as many of you know, under the previous government, there was an announcement to bring in a ban on the sale and supply of single-use vapes, which was paused at the point of the general election. So we can now confirm that that will be going forward, and on the 21st of October, we have laid legislation in Parliament to put that into place. This is aligning with the regulations that have been introduced in Wales, Scotland and Northern Ireland as well. And it will be made in Parliament by the 1st of December of this year to ensure a coming into force date of June 2025. Our expectation is that that coming into force date in June will be aligned across the four nations, so that'll be happening at the same time. Just for sort of the background, the single-use vape that we're looking at here will be defined as non-refillable and non-rechargeable. So it will need to be both of those in order to be sold in the UK under the new regulations. All sort of separate components, so that'll be like refill pods, coils must also be available separately for sale. If we go to the next slide, I can give some instruction on the regulations. Yeah, so as I've covered, the regulations are planning to come into force in June 2025. What I'm talking about here are the English regulations that were laid in Parliament. There'll be SIs laid. I think they've been laid in Scotland and Wales and will be in Northern Ireland as well. So a vape is sort of is a device which vaporizes substance for the purposes of inhalation. So that will be vaping liquid rather than heated tobacco. And it will need to be designed and intended to be reused, as well as meeting the definition of rechargeable and refillable. To be refillable, it needs to include either a single-use container, sort of known as a pod, which can be purchased separately, containing nicotine liquid, or alternatively have a tank that can be refilled from sort of a bottle of e-liquid. To be rechargeable, it needs to have a battery that can be recharged. It also needs to have a coil that can be replaced by the user. If the coil is included as part of a single-use cartridge or a pod, that must also be able to be removed. Can we go to the next slide? The regulations make it an offence to supply anyone in the course of the business. So you can't sell them and they can't be supplied for free. Yeah, can we do the next slide? And in terms of the offence, how this will be enforced, it will be enforced by local authorities using trading standards departments in England. They'll have the power to enter shop premises if they believe that vapes are being sold to inspect. They can bring individuals with them that they'll need to undertake that work. That can be either sort of the police, sniffer dogs, things like that. They can open and inspect products to determine if they are in fact single use or not, and can take samples away to test. They're also able to, where they've identified single-use vapes, remove these from the premises for either sort of testing to ensure that evidence isn't tampered with as part of an investigation, or for disposal by the local authority. So what that effectively means is that where vapes are taken away, they can then be disposed of without sort of going through the court system. Trading standards are also able to sort of ensure that they get the information they need. So that will be things like asking for documents, taking copies of that, and ensuring that they're allowed to take the names and details of anyone sort of involved in the operations. Can we do the next slide? Great. Yeah, so where an offence has been committed in the first instance, we would expect to see a £200 fixed penalty notice. Alongside that, trading standards will be able to issue stop notices or compliance notices. A stop notice is effectively a notice that prevents a person from carrying on with the activities that they've been suspected of doing until they meet certain conditions. That would mean that they would have to effectively hand products over to trading standards, destroy products, things like that, remove displays. Where these aren't complied with, an offence has been undertaken. This can lead to sort of going to court, where the individual who's undertaken the offence could be subject to sort of the maximum either fine or prison sentence allowed within a magistrate's court. Where stop and compliance notices are issued, there's also something called a cost recovery notice that local authorities might be able to apply. That means that they can recoup costs for things like investigation, administrative costs and legal costs from the rogue traders themselves. Next slide, please. Yeah, so that's sort of an overview of the regulations. we're working as part of our next steps, we are working with trading standards to understand how best we can provide support in the implementation and the enforcement of the restrictions. We're particularly giving consideration to the storage and disposal of illegal products. Business guidance is going to be coming soon, which will clarify retailers' responsibilities and how they can best comply. And we're going to be working closely with retail organisations, other regulators and enforcers to ensure that that covers the full scope of vaping regulations.